Okay, so you have filled out the working with the real estate industry and you filled out the buyer designated brokerage agreement. Now onto the part that everyone gets excited about, the agreement of purchase and sale. So up in the top left-hand corner, there's total number of pages. So if we're doing new construction or if we're doing a condo resale or a letter of introduction, anything like that, we just want the lawyers to know exactly how many pages form part of this contract. So that's what goes up there. We spell out your name, so please just provide a copy of your driver's license so that we have the correct spelling of your name and your address. And here we have having personally viewed the property, not having personally viewed the property, or other. This is a new checkbox actually for in the event that we have virtual showings for some of our out-of-town buyers. Offers to buy from the seller, seller's name goes in here, property known as the civic address. The PID, or the property identifying number, that gets populated as well in the county of usually Halifax, but we have other counties as well. And then for the purchase price. So now we've done our homework, we've done a comparative market analysis, we've looked at what the comps are selling for, and we're going to go in with our best offer because in this market, chances are we're going to be in competition. So on to the clauses. So clause 1 is the deposit. So the buyer submits a deposit. We're going to look for 1 to 2% of the purchase price of the property. This is going to be held in the trust account of the listing agent's brokerage. Now the trust account, the check will be cashed and the money will be held in the trust account. It's not given to the seller, it's not given to the seller's realtor or lawyer, it's held in the trust account until closing. And some of these funds will go towards some of your closing costs on closing day. And now there is, okay, so on to, now if we pass our condition timeline and deadline, then the deposit does go to the seller. So it's important that you know that if you do not meet your conditions, you need to give written notice to the seller prior to your condition deadline. And we'll get to that in, I believe, clause 3 and 4. The next section here is clause 2, closing and conveyance. This agreement shall be completed before, enter your ideal closing date here. The seller shall use their best efforts to have the property clean and vacant, subject to provisions 2.1 of the buyer's pre-closing preview by, we're going to enter the time, usually 7 a.m., because we want them to have all their belongings out really the day before and have it cleaned the day before. Clause 2.5, the conveyance of the property is usually done by warranty deed. I have seen it done by trustee deed in the event of an estate sale. And then, of course, if it's a mobile or mini, it's a general conveyance. But it's usually the warranty deed. Now, clause 3, the seller's obligations. So again, it's a little bit tricky in this market, but that said, the seller really does want to provide a little bit of information about the property so that you can make an educated decision. So we usually give the seller a couple of days if they haven't already provided this information on Paragon or the back end of MLS. Then we request the property disclosure statement, the restrictive covenants, equipment schedule, location certificate, property taxes, and any utility costs involved with the property. And then on to clause 4 is the buyer's conditions. So here we're going to say, we're going to review all those documents that we just asked for in clause 3, and then we're also going to have financing, property inspection, insurance. Again, we follow your lawful instructions. So if you don't want to have a property inspection, let's discuss that. And then this is something new that's been added to the form is the buyer shall provide the seller or the seller's agent on or before. We put in a time now, and this is actually new. So believe it or not, I've been doing this for probably about a year and a half, really, just letting everybody know that we're going to know by 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. We don't want this going on till 11 o'clock at night because bankers don't work till 11 o'clock at night. We should know about financing before 4 p.m. And if not, then we need to have an amendment extending clause 4 or buyer's conditions. Clause 5, harmonized sales tax. If it's new construction, it is subject to HST. If it's resale, it is not subject to HST. Clause 6, fixtures and chattels. If you were to pick the house up and turn it upside down, shake it, everything that fell out, in theory, goes with the seller, and everything that stays in the house stays with you, the buyer. So so things like shelves stay attached to the wall, they stay with the property. The items on the shelves, they go. Nails stay in the wall. The pictures go. I know I'm just kind of splitting hairs, but it's important that we kind of discuss that, because if the seller has a wall full of shelves and they remove those shelves, or custom blinds, these are things that we really should be clarifying up here in clause 6.2. So we have the fridge, the stove, the washer, dryer, freezer, microwave, dishwasher. 3 others, we usually put in the bathroom mirrors, the green HRM bin, any remotes that are pertinent to the property, like the garage door or the ceiling fans, anything like that. And then clause 7, additional conditions. You know, if it's the middle of winter, do we need to make sure that the walkways are clear of snow so that we can move in? If it's the middle of summer, do we want the grass mowed, you know, up to, or at least the day before closing day, so that we know that we're not walking into, you know, 3-foot grasses on closing day. Additional conditions, we usually put broom swept, garbage removed. If it's a military move, sometimes they'll have professional cleaning done. But all of this should be included in the contract. Clause 8 is lawyer review. This will be completed by your lawyer. If you need a referral, I'm more than happy to make a referral. Wonderful, wonderful team here in Nova Scotia that we work with. So just let me know. Clause 9, the property should be migrated to the current land registration system. If it's not, then the lawyers will address this prior to closing. Okay. Again, clause 10 will also be investigated. Title investigation will be completed by your lawyer. So we like to give lawyers at least a week and maybe even 10 days. If we're in competition, we want to tighten up those timelines. If we're not in competition, then let's give the lawyers and the mortgage brokers and everybody else enough time to do their jobs properly. Now, agency relationship. Here we put in the brokerage of the listing agent and the agent. And if they're also with Royal LePage Atlantic, it's important that you know that the brokerage they're neutral, okay? They make sure that the deal follows the Real Estate Trading Act, but they don't favor the buyer or the seller. Now, if in the event that you do write on a property that is a Pike Group property, that's a little bit different, because I technically do have an agency relationship with that seller. Even though I've never met them, but I can't negotiate in your best interest. I can still, you know, introduce you to qualified parties, home inspectors, water testers, all those parties. I just can't tell you how much to offer on the house or what closing date. But if I do my job right, I should never have to. Okay, and then of course, clause 13 is time for seller's response. We need to put a timeline in here because this is a legally binding contract. And hopefully, clause 14, the seller's response, hopefully accept the offer and agree to all terms set forth. Any questions, I can be reached at 902-999-2667.